You mentioned Donald Trump, and he and several other people said that we should monitor mosques for radicalization. And, we know that's ridiculous because previous programs like the demographic unit here in New York, proved to be completely useless and illegal. But we know there are mosques where people are being radicalized, both here and obviously in France and Belgium. So, Peter, how do we police radicalization without infringing on the rights of every single Muslim person?
Well, first of all, what Donald Trump is talking about, monitoring or closing mosques, is wholly unconstitutional. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion, and any kind of blanket surveillance / discrimination / persecution of a religion is unconstitutional. There should be some kind of asterisk in the Constitution.
Yeah,
that
it's not even really, it's not even hypothetical. New York City did try this, but the demographics unit I just mentioned, 6 years yielded no arrests, no leads, and then it had to be shut down because essentially it's illegal.
Sure. So let's go back and take a look at this. For example, in the 60s and 70s or so, it was believed that organized crime here in New York City was getting out of control. And so there was a campaign launched against the mafia. Now, the New York City police did not, and the FBI did not surveil every Italian in the New York metro area. Instead, what they did was open a series of investigations that helped them narrow down their target list, if you will, obtain warrants, and then focus their limited resources on people who they believed actually were bad guys, and continue to define it until they figured out who they were going to actually go out and arrest. Mosques are one place that Muslims gather, and I think they're very visible places for Muslims to gather, and so it's an easy target for politicians and law enforcement to focus on. But, you can just as easily get together at a McDonald's and make plans. The 9/11 hijackers spent a lot of time in cafes and coffee shops in Germany planning their attacks. So, you can pick a giant group and say all the Muslims, and you can pick a giant group and say all the mosques, but you're going to not accomplish your goals. In fact, there's 14 years worth of evidence that we haven't accomplished those goals. And at the same time, you're going to, at a minimum, piss off a lot of very innocent people, if not radicalize even more people.
Right, but I mean, again, we do know that there are mosques where there are, radical, extreme imams, and there are people being radicalized in some of them. How do we try to police that without doing what you said, just unconstitutional violation of rights?
Well, if you're going to go out and catch criminals, then you catch criminals the way that you've always caught criminals. You conduct reasonable investigations that have some sense of probable cause attached to them, and then you proceed from there to determine whether or not a law is being violated and gather evidence against that person. The idea of saying, there may be a mosque in Texas, that has a imam that we think is a radical. First, we can argue about how you define all those terms, but let's just use them for now. And then once you've come to that conclusion, maybe based on an informant, maybe based on an arrest, then you say, fine, what laws are being violated here? And you gather evidence. It's not a complex question. It doesn't require what we're agonizing over here. It's a crime. We know how to deal with crime. We can do that without creating more problems on a secondary or tertiary basis.